This is African American History is American History. Welcome. I'm your host, Harlan Kearsley. This program's goal is to foster understanding, promote discussion, and expand knowledge through stories of historical events, bios of unsung heroes, as well as timely and relevant news stories which will paint a vivid picture of the effects of segregation, discrimination, and bigotry on the lives of both blacks and whites. Comparisons will be made between the many racially fractured periods of American history and what's going on right now. Slavery was abolished just 150 years ago. Jim Crow only 50 years ago. Yet stop and frisk, voter ID, stand your ground, income inequality, and a host of other current problems are proof that their detrimental effects continue to be felt, and that the struggle for equal rights for all must continue. In Los Angeles in 1916, Georgia Ann Robinson became the first African-American female police officer in the country. She was initially hired by the LAPD as a matron after meeting all the qualifications required to become a policewoman, which were: policewomen were expected to be between 30 and 44 years of age. They had to be married and preferably with children. They were required to hold a college degree in either teaching, nursing, or sociology, and they had to pass a very difficult civil service exam. These requirements were much higher than the ones set for policemen. Now, in those days, policewomen, or matrons, were considered civilian employees. They did not wear a uniform, and they received no formal police training, and, wait for it, they received no pay. But the good news is that just 3 years later, on June 10, 1919, Georgia Ann Robinson would be appointed as a regular policewoman. She received training and pay, albeit much less than her male counterparts. Her superiors were so impressed with her work that she was later assigned to work on juvenile and homicide cases. Robinson was so committed to her work that she often brought homeless and runaway girls who had nowhere else to turn into her home. She helped to create the Sojourner Truth Home for Destitute Women and Girls, named after the famous African-American abolitionist and women's rights activist. Robinson retired from the LAPD in 1929 after 13 years of service. However, she continued to work with women at the Sojourner Truth Home for Destitute Women and Girls and was active in many civil rights projects, such as the desegregation of the local beaches and eliminating discriminatory hiring practices in the Los Angeles public school system. Georgia Ann Robinson passed away in 1961 at the age of 82. This is African American History is American History. In 1974, just 55 years after Georgia Ann Robinson became the first African American policewoman in the country, 24-year-old Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Officer Gail Cobb was gunned down while trying to arrest a bank robber she had tracked down in a downtown garage. In October of 1973, Cobb applied to become an officer with the MPDC, much to the surprise of her family and friends. After the Washington, D.C. government lowered the height requirements for the police recruits to 5 feet, Cobb herself was 5 feet exactly. She graduated from her 34-member police academy class in April of 1974. Of the 34 graduating members, 13 were female.
Hey, Cobb. A couple of us probies are headed out to Keller's for a few beers to celebrate making it through the first week. Come on, join us. First round is on me.
I'd like to, but I've got to study. Sorry.
Study? You got the gig already, Cobb. You don't need to keep proving you can do the job.
I'm studying for the sergeant's exam.
You're still on probation as a patrolman.
Well, my daddy taught me to always look ahead. I plan to be 100% when it comes time to take that exam.
Yeah? Well, do me a favor. Slow the hell down. Please. Just a little. You're making us white guys look lazy.
No problem. Have a good night.
Cobb was well liked by her trainers, who noted that she was hard-working. Since she spent most of her time patrolling on foot, she went that extra mile and set out to learn everything she could about the neighborhood and its residents. She even took a night class to learn sign language. At around 10:30 a.m. on Friday, September 20th, 1974, two men, 29-year-old John Curtis Dortch, a Howard University graduate and former U.S. Army soldier from Silver Springs, Maryland, and 24-year-old John William Bryant from Washington, D.C., headed out for the Eastern Liberty Federal Savings and Loan located at 21st and L Streets, Northwest in downtown D.C. The two men were disguised as construction workers, and each carried a loaded sawed-off shotgun and handgun. Their intent was to rob the bank. Two plainclothes police officers had been alerted of the robbery in advance and spotted the two men on the street. Before the two would-be robbers could even get inside the bank, the officers stopped them and asked for ID. The two men ran off in separate directions. Only 6 months out of the academy at the time, Gail Cobb was still on probationary duty and was assigned to foot patrol just a block away from the bank. Cobb was in the middle of writing a traffic ticket when she was told by a concerned citizen,
Officer! Officer! I just saw some crazy guy running like a bat out of hell down the street, holding a gun.
Are you sure about what you saw, sir?
Yeah, I'm sure. You could see the gun plain as day. He ran into that parking garage around the corner.
All right, sir. I'll look into this. Thank you. Now I need to ask you to please remain here. We may need a statement from you later.
Cobb followed the suspect and confronted him inside the garage, just as he was about to change out of his construction worker disguise.
Police! Stop right there! Let me see your hands. Now! All right. Now I want you to very slowly turn around and place both hands on that wall, legs apart. Do it! Now!
The man began to comply with Cobb's order and slowly turned around towards the wall of the parking garage. Just as she was calling for assistance over the radio, the suspect spun around and fired a single gunshot, hitting Cobb at close range. The bullet went through Cobb's wrist, shattering a wristwatch that was given to her by her mother as a birthday present, and through her police radio, where it then penetrated her heart. Cobb died at the scene. Responding officers arrested the suspect.
She was the first female officer sworn in to the MPDC and was an exemplary officer, a role model for all those that will follow. Officer Gail Adrian Cobb made the ultimate sacrifice. Sadly, her death established the fact that the criminal makes no distinction between the sexes.
On that day, September 20th, 1974, Officer Gail Adrian Cobb became both the first female police officer in the history of the Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia to be shot and killed while patrolling, and this nation's first African-American policewoman to die in the line of duty. This is African American History is American History. Today, there are 210 female officers honored on the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, and 38 are African Americans. In 2000, the Los Angeles Police Department appointed former Lieutenant Ann Young, the department's first African American female police captain. She had been a member of the Los Angeles Police Department since 1981. Sadly, in 2001, more African American officers died in the line of duty, 33, than in any other year. Now, of course, that was 9/11, the deadliest incident in law enforcement history. Today, the courage and bravery of African Americans in law enforcement continues, not only as police officers, but in the U.S. Marshal Service, as agents in the ATF, Secret Service, FBI, CIA, basically, you name the agency, there are African American men and women in it. This show was written and directed by Harlan Kearsley. The cast for this episode included Soraya Butler and Jeffrey Schubert. I'm Harlan Kearsley. On behalf of everyone here at African American History's American History, thank you for listening. And remember, none of us can truly embrace the future until we first confront the past. African American History is American History. Copyright H.C. Kearsley, 2016.